Hi, everybody. Today, the journey is going to be a little bit longer, but stay with me. It's going to be worth it, okay? We are going to talk about consistency, not just in practice, but in approach. Specifically, how to remove two of the biggest struggles: what to paint and how to paint it. So, before we start, a quick note on the materials. I am working on a 250 GSM paper, some pencils, eraser, sharpener, paint, brushes, water, cloth, and maybe a sponge and gloves if you want. You can use canvas if you prefer, but paper is practical for the sake of these exercises. The materials aren't the point, the process is. So let's begin with a simple portrait. Once again, the focus is not on likeness, but capturing the basic composition and expression. For instance, look at this photograph. You might be seeing something different. You see a girl with blue eyes, pale skin, short hair. Maybe this is what you see, but what I see is a little bit of tension, a little bit of uncertainty, a sense of being slightly lost, but is still strong. And I see someone who has been strong enough to overcome her challenges. And this is what I paint, or at least this is what I try to paint. I start with a basic color to map the main areas. And if I need speed or smoothness, I use a sponge. Simple like that. Then I establish the main shapes, and after that, I introduce a second or third color to refine, to add contrast, and to bring out key features. This is a very simple structure. This is the same thing that we have been doing for the last few exercises. And we are only using 4, maybe 5 colors. And the reason why I'm doing that is just to show you that you don't need much to make a good composition. You don't need much to send your message. You don't need much to express yourself through your work. Personally, I lean towards this kind of expressionist, semi-abstract approach because I'm not interested in reproducing reality. I'm more interested in translating it, in showing how I feel, how reality is seen through my eyes. I can see reality, you can see the same reality, but you can only see reality as I see it if I show it in my work. That's why I tend to use more of expression than anything else. So let's do a second portrait. This is from the same photographer. I'm going to put the link in the description. So we are using the same method, the same material, basically using the same approach to shapes, to the composition, the same kind of refinement, but we might shift the approach slightly, but the whole structure stays the same. And please, 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 this is important. Do not try to copy what I'm doing. This is not the goal, okay? The goal is to make you start your own work. I want you to be free to be you, to do things your way, to find your own way of doing things. My main goal here is to convince you, to encourage you to start. This is what I want you to do. Whenever I come here and paint 1, 2, 3, 4, or 8 paintings like we are doing today, all I want is to show you that you can do it, but you have got to start, because once and only once you start painting, you can see what works, what doesn't, where you can push, and where you need more control. So you discover your own language by using it, okay? You don't find your language to start using it. You discover your language by using it, okay? So let's try a couple of animals here. Firstly, a horse. So it's the same technique, nothing changes, just the subject. This is the core idea of what we are doing here today. You don't need a new method every time you change subject. You need consistency. And a quick note on why some of my paintings appear sideways. This is somehow practical because the camera is fixed above my desk. This is my working desk, and I don't want to keep changing things. I want to keep things simple, okay? So if the surface I'm working on is too big for the screen, I have to flip it, okay? And there's also something intentional here, because when you flip an image, you stop relying on recognition and start seeing structure, okay? You notice problems that you wouldn't otherwise. So it forces you to look again, okay? And it is also fun. It has become some kind of a trademark of our community here, okay? That is the guy who does painting sideways. I hope that explains. Anyway, so let's try another one, a tiger. So the same process again. We sketch, we block the shapes, we refine, and that's it. Different subject, same thinking, okay? Now I want to connect what we are doing here to something that I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, the opening quote. Once you know the notes to sing, you can sing most anything. And that's exactly what we are doing here. I love the dynamics of this community, and some of you often ask for different subjects, for different things for us to try on, and I'm always open to those, okay? Sometimes you ask for bigger animals, for birds, for new things. And this video is somewhat kind of an answer to that, because the real question is not what to paint, is whether you understand how you paint. Once that's clear, the subject becomes secondary. You're not painting things as they are. You're painting how you perceive them, okay? This leads to a more difficult point. What makes someone an artist? This is a very simple question, but you should ask that more often. And here is the simplest answer I can give. Where does the work come from? If what you make is driven mainly by external reference, you are making objects, okay? You are making things, but you are not necessarily creating anything. Honestly, it is as simple as that. You are making things, but you are not necessarily creating anything. By replicating something that already exists, you become a maker, not a creator. However, if what you make comes from an internal response, if you are shaping something that did not exist before, or if you are allowing anything be shaped or transformed by how it is filtered once it passes through you, then that might make you an actual artist. So are you a maker or are you a creator? That difference matters. Think about the Guggenheim Museum in New York. It is associated with Frank Lloyd Wright, but he didn't physically build it. Many others did, okay, hundreds of them, but the authorship is his. And why? Because the structure came from his internal vision. The workers executed, that's true. They made it real, sure. Both roles are valid, great, but they are not the same. No matter how many makers were involved in that building, the creation was still of that single person who didn't have to move a single brick to make it happen. So back to painting. If your work is primarily replication, that's a valid path. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But understand it for what it is. However, if your work is driven by your own experience, your own way to respond to the environment, to the world around you, people, places, whatever makes you, okay, then you're doing something else. Once you are comfortable with how you paint, what you paint stops being a problem. Allow me to test that idea. I'm going to take a well-known album cover here. I absolutely love it. I like the concept. I like the simplicity. I like the execution. I like the meaning. I like how iconic it is. And so far, I'm only talking about the visual of it. I'm not talking about how it represents the content of the album. I like this album so much. I like the music on it so much that I'm going to pay a homage, okay? I could simply copy it. It's not the most complex image, after all, something very simple, to be honest. But what would be the point if I simply copy it? Because that story already exists. And most importantly, that story is not mine. I cannot simply copy it and claim it mine just because I made a copy of that. So rather, I am going to tell my story, how that album cover affects me, how I see it. So I am translating it. I'm using the same technique, the same colors, the same structure, the same everything that is already familiar to me to translate an image that is already familiar, not only to me, but most people. But I'm going to show how I feel that image. So there is something very interesting about the symbology of that image, because the original image shows lights passing through a prism and splitting. So what interests me is not the physics, it's the idea that something changes as it passes through a system. That's what happens with perception. You see something, it passes through you, and what comes out is different. That difference is your work. That difference should be your work. Okay? So now I have something mine to tell. Everyone will see at least two things here: that this is a vision of something that they are already familiar with, and this is not the same story. This is how that story moved me. That's how that story happens when it passes through me. So now another example, a still life inspired by Van Gogh. Once again, I'm using the same materials, I'm using the same colors, I'm using the same everything. I love this composition, but I cannot paint like him because I cannot feel what he felt when he was painting it. That's not available to me. And no matter how much I know of his work or his life, I can never experience what he did. However, I can respond to his work. So I use my own colors, my own gestures, my own structure, my own material, my own everything. And the result is influenced by him, of course, but it belongs to me. That's the only useful way to engage with influence, with reference, with inspiration. So if your main concern is how others will judge the result, it's quite possible that you're going to do some very interesting visual work, but you're going to be default to safe, to external solutions, okay? However, if your focus is on expressing your perception, your work will start to shift. So stay within a method long enough to understand it and allow the variation come naturally, organically, and most importantly, honestly, not from constantly changing tools, materials, references. Change, evolution, or growth, or anything that will affect how you make your work, it needs to come from within the process, not from reacting to something new and immediately adopting as your own direction. So, as a final practice for today, let's make something that we haven't done yet, a car. Okay, it's the same process again: sketch, block, refine, different subject, same system. Okay, at this point, the pattern should be clear. Consistency in method creates freedom in subject. The challenge is not accuracy, the challenge is translation. If you focus only on what things look like, you limit yourself to reproduction. If you focus on how they feel, then you are open to emotions, stories, connections, okay, that you wouldn't have if you simply replicated the world around you the same way it is projected. You cannot escape from being influenced. You cannot escape from trying to use your references. So stay consistent with how you see and respond to your own work, okay? I think it's a very simple thing, and I hope you can spot the difference. Sometimes I struggle trying to say things that in my head it's very clear, but I don't know if I am being clear enough. So please let me know if that was clear. So these are the results of what we have done today. I hope you've learned something new today. And if there's one thing to take away from today's exercise, it's going to be this. You don't need to chase new methods. You need to understand your own. Keep working, observe the world around you, but pay closer attention to how you respond to it. Notice your patterns, how you simplify things, how you exaggerate, how you ignore, how you emphasize. That is where your work starts to take shape. That is where you find your position as an artist. As always, keep on practicing and thank you for joining us.